Yeah, we're doing shows too. So I just finished watching the new Office spin-off show, The Paper, and it was decent. I'm a big fan of sitcoms. Sitcoms are a big part of my life. The Office is a show that got me through some pretty rough times, so has a soft spot in my heart. When I heard they were making a spin-off, I was both put off and a bit intrigued because I don't really enjoy modern sitcoms that much, and I don't really enjoy modern sitcom remakes or like past sitcom remakes that much. The only one I really like is Abbott Elementary, highly recommend by the way, and everything else I kind of just not interested in. But The Paper was being made by the same people who made The Office, and its premise has a lot of potential. So The Paper is about this struggling newspaper company that, gets a new chief editor, and it, takes it back to the glory days. And it's a premise that allows for potentially really good episodes, especially episodes with big set pieces, because I think writing interesting news, like coming up with news yourself, is honestly pretty easy and allows for a lot of entertaining plot lines. And I'm going to be using the word potential a lot in this review because this show is quite literally the definition of potential. For a first season, I think it does a lot of things really well. Most of the time, the first season of a sitcom is a bit shaky because it takes a lot of time and effort for writers to really know what the show is, and it takes time for the characters to find their identity. Fortunately, this show does a lot in the first 10 episodes. It has one of the things I think is key to having a good sitcom: character dynamics. And I think this show does a really good job at setting up character dynamics. When a sitcom takes too long to set up relationships between characters, it kind of drags everything down because you're going to get bored. You're also going to get bored if the characters and their storylines are trash. But this show sets up some pretty good storylines too. By the end of the show, most of the characters have a lot of room to develop, and it sets itself up for a good season 2, but also season 2 has a lot of heavy lifting to do, because season 1 does have a few shortcomings. The biggest issue I have about this show is the characters themselves. I think all of them are pretty bland and not very memorable. There isn't a personality trait that really shines from a single character except Esmeralda. She just feels outlandish, and when you have a character that's written over the top and you have a bunch of bland and plain characters, she kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. She would be my favorite character if she just didn't work against the main characters all the time. She's the driving, or at least one of the driving conflicts of the show, and I just can't like her for that. She's just annoying. There are times where she works with the characters, and those are the best times because when she's sabotaging the main characters, I just can't like her. I think she can be the funniest and eventually become a fan favorite in the show if they write her correctly, though her character is the only one that's written over the top again, while everybody else just feels kind of plain. Like, for example, the main character, Ned, he's just kind of the likable dork archetype, but he's also one of the best characters in the show because I guess he has a lot of screen time to really flesh him out. But everybody else kind of just feels extremely grounded, and I kind of don't enjoy that because I like my sitcoms with extremely eccentric characters. So I'm just hoping in season 2, I hope they find their identity, and I hope they do, because if they don't, the show's just gonna fall off, because sitcoms are nothing without their cast. However, everything else that they do on a technical standpoint is pretty good. You can tell this crew, this whole production team, is very experienced at making mockumentaries. The cuts, the pacing, and the camera and the editing, I think, is done masterfully. It's subtle, but you can tell it's refined. The jokes, for me at least, work some of the times. I think the comedy in this series is definitely decent at best. I was chuckling here and there, but it's not haha laugh out loud funny. It's not Always Sunny in Philadelphia funny, and it's not Community funny. But it has that dry humor that I think it does pretty well, but not too well. The comedy definitely has room to improve in season 2. What I like in my sitcoms is long-running jokes. They better set up some long-running jokes in season 2. While I think the show does a lot of good stuff in the 10 episodes, it might be doing a bit too much because I don't want to get into spoilers, but there are character storylines that I feel like they're not really rushed. It just doesn't feel as rewarding as it should have been. If they just moved it or waited a little bit until season 2, I think it would have felt more rewarding. But, I don't want to get into spoilers, but there are some storylines that do feel a bit fast. But I feel like some of the other storylines in The Office were kind of a bit dragged. If if you hint, if you watch the show and you know what I mean. Overall, I can't wait for season 2 of this show because it has so much potential. It has so much room to grow, and I can't wait to see what it becomes. I think this show is farther ahead as a season 1 compared to The Office and Parks and Rec, because oh my god, those season 1s are they were kind of a bit rough, bit garbage. So I'm really looking forward to the following seasons. But for now, I'm going to give season 1 of The Paper a 7 out of 10.